Welcome back to Economics with me, Professor Ludwinski. I'm excited to continue on in our unit talking about perfect competition and the theory of the firm. So jumping right in here, we just went over the introduction along with a good amount of assumptions and things we're going to think about. What we're going to talk about today is thinking about opportunity cost and production. And mainly what we're going to be looking at the beginning is an example with someone we're going to just name Harry. So in this example, which is going to illustrate the importance of opportunity cost, Harry can divide his time between two different activities. He can wash dishes for $10 an hour, or he can find and recycle aluminum cans, and those get him 2 cents per can. So the question that we're going to be asking is, how much labor should Harry supply to each of these two activities in order to maximize his income? And we're going to emphasize here thinking on the margin. What this is going to mean is that Harry, in order to maximize the money that he is making, should devote an additional hour to recycling as long as he is earning at least $10 per hour doing that recycling. So we're making some hidden assumptions here that I want to name. We're assuming that in terms of washing dishes, Harry can pick exactly his hours and how much he wants to work. And what we're also going to be doing is when we're looking at this recycling of cans, he has the ability to find a lot of cans fairly easy, but as he spends more and more time finding those cans, it becomes harder. And we can formalize that assumption by putting down in a table how many cans he finds per hour here. So what we're showing here is that if he puts no time into looking for cans, surprise, surprise, he finds none. So hours per day 0 corresponds to 0 cans found. In that first hour, he can get 1,200 cans. Adding a second hour puts him up to 2,000, etc., etc. That's how we read this table. Now, what we're going to want to do here is, as I mentioned, think on the margin. So we're going to be interested in not just the total number of cans found, but how many additional cans are found for each hour. And that's what's highlighted in this red table. So adding that 1,200 cans from 0 to 1, it's 800 moving from 1 hour to 2, etc., etc. Now, in order to make this comparison, we need to take this additional number of cans found and turn it into a dollar amount. So with the price at 2 cents a can, 1,200 cans corresponds to $2,400 or $24 of additional income for Harry. Now, in order to decide how many hours should Harry devote to finding these cans, we need to compare it to his other option. And his other option is to earn that $10 from washing dishes. And so we can clearly see that first hour is worth it. And $24 is more than that $10. And that second hour is worth it, and that third hour is worth it. It's between the third and fourth there that it no longer becomes worth it because $8 per hour is less than that 12. So instead of going and trying to find those 400 cans in that fourth hour, he should instead, if he's trying to maximize his income, simply wash dishes. And so this leads us to the conclusion here that with the wage of his outside option, the option to wash dishes at $10, and the price per can at 2 cents, then he maximizes his revenue and income by spending 3 hours recycling. Now let's do a small change. Let's say that the deposit on the cans goes up from 2 cents to 4 cents. It doubles. And what that changes is not anything in his two columns about that relate to production. That just changes this column of revenue from additional cans. And in fact, it doubles it. So everything in this column has been doubled. And now we still do the same exercise, we still compare that additional revenue from cans per hour with the additional revenue we get per hour of dishwashing, which is $10. And when we do this comparison with the new deposit, we see that the first 4 hours get Harry more than $10 an hour. And so Harry should, if he's maximizing his revenue here, spend 4 hours recycling. All right, now back to 2 cents per can. So we have this original revenue per additional can here. Now let's say instead of the deposit on cans increasing, it's still at 2 cents. What happens if the wage of dishwashing increases to $14 per hour? So we've updated this to 14 per hour. We just do the same exercise of comparison. Instead of using 10, we now use 14. And what we can see is that, well, it's actually now only worth it to do those first 2 hours. And so what we see in this exercise on opportunity cost is that when the cost or the price is higher, you do more of that. When the price for dishwashing is higher, surprise, surprise, you do more dishwashing. When the price per can is higher, producers do more collection of cans. Now we're going to flip this question on its head a little bit. Before we were asking, how many cans and how many hours will Harry spend collecting these cans given a particular price? Now what we're going to do is ask, what is the price that would have Harry collect that many cans? Right? So we're going to do this. We used a wage of 10. We used a wage of 14. Now we're going to do it with a wage of 12. So what we're going to say here is, well, what the exercise we're asking is it worth it? That's what we ask for each of these additional revenue. Is it worth it? And we're asking with the $14. Now we're asking it with the 12, right? And we're going to ask this question for each of the 5. So this, all it requires is us to do a little bit of math. Right? So what is the price that is going to make the opportunity cost for collecting cans exactly equal to that $12, the opportunity cost for dishwashing? So $12 needs to equal the price for recycling the can times the 1,200 extra cans. And doing the math here, we just need to do some rearranging, and we see that the price that makes this equation equal and that makes it worth it for him to do that first hour is actually only 1 cent. We can do that same math for the second hour, which is 1.5, the third hour, which is 2 cents, right, which makes sense because that's half of the number of cans. The fourth hour would need to be 3 cents, and that fifth hour would need to be 6 cents. So what we have done is now relate the number of hours and production to price. Right? With the wage of 12, we now have the number of cans found, the price, and the total cans found. So we're going to focus in on this relationship between price and the total quantity of cans. We can graph those, and we're going to put price on here on our vertical axis. Here is 1 cent leading to 1,200 cans, 1.5 cent leading to 2,000. This is thousands of cans on our quantity axis here. 2 cents leading to 2,600, 3 cent leading to 3,000, 6 cents leading to 3,000. Well, what we have here is a relationship between price and quantity supplied. And if you remember from our previous chapters, that relationship is the supply curve. So what we just were able to do is look at opportunity costs, look at the trade-offs and the behavior of our producer Harry, and put together the supply curve, the relationship between price and quantity supplied. Supply curves in general are going to have a positive slope. And the reason why this is the case is, as I brought up earlier, Harry is first searching the areas where those cans are easy to find. Maybe he knows in a particular dorm there are a lot of leftover cans. Maybe they drink a lot of soda. And then he next maybe needs to go to areas that are far away. It takes more time. They're less easier to access. So this is that principle of increasing opportunity cost showing up again. And it leads to that positive slope in the supply curve. The other thing we can note is that higher recycling prices are going to attract new suppliers. So supply curves show up both because those marginal costs increase, perhaps Harry is working more, but also it can bring new suppliers. Now, talking about different suppliers, if we're wanting to think not just about Harry's individual supply curve, but if we want to think about the supply curve for the market, all we need to do is combine everyone who is producing or potentially producing in this space. So let's say Harry had an identical twin berry, we would just add those two together. We could add them together in a table, we could add them horizontally in a graph. We just need to make sure we're saying how much quantity do we get at each price and add them that way. So at a price of 1 cent, we have 1.2 for Harry, we have 1.2 for Barry, and the sum of those two together is 2.4. And hopefully that example helped you understand the connection between opportunity cost and an individual firm's production, as well as how firms are combined to be the market as a whole. So that concludes this section. What we'll be talking about next is thinking about production and different types of cost structures. Thank you so much for joining me. Leave me comments or subscribe, and I hope that you're able to learn from this material. Have a great day. Thank you very much.